Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Homegrown 2020, where I'm meeting with amazing women across New Zealand and Australia who are sharing their stories, inspiring change in both business and in life. And today I'm really lucky to be joined with Linda Anderson. Linda is an adventurer, she is a traveler, she's a mum of three, a blogger, and if that wasn't enough, she is also the owner of Linda on the Go, where she coaches women to thrive, not just survive, which we're going to hear all about in a second. But before we do, Linda, thank you so much for sharing your time and your energy with me and your insight to our audience. Greatly appreciated. And I know that there are lots of women out there who are mums who are no doubt just surviving, and they're going to get some great value out of your tips. But also, I guess, kind of hear your insight and your journey as well.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Lou.
You are welcome. So, Linda, I guess to get started, what I would love is, could you share a little bit of insight, or just, I guess, a little bit about yourself, not only just in business, but in life, and give us all a bit of a snapshot on who Linda's all about?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So yes, you have already said that, I am an adventurer. I am a bit of an adventurous soul. I love to travel. We love to travel as a family. My three children are now 11, 9, and 7, but they have been traveling with us all over the world, all around whatever country we've lived in, etc., ever since they were wee little babies. So they're very hardy travelers these days. I am Australian originally, but now live on the very beautiful Waiheke Island in New Zealand. And that was really part of our family journey and our family dream to live somewhere. Well, that ticked, that's a whole long story in itself. But basically, we had a list of um, attributes and qualities that we wanted somewhere in the world to have for us to move to as a family. And the short version of that long story is that, Waiheke ticked all the boxes. So we moved here and it's really beautiful. You mentioned, yep, I am a life coach. I've been a life coach for about 15 years, which makes me feel very old when I say that, long before I became a mother. So in the early days, I've coached everybody and anybody really in the world that wanted, to work with me. And then through my own journey of having children and experiencing how that changed me as a woman and the challenges that brought up for me within myself and how I felt about myself and how I saw myself in the world, I realized that there was this huge lack of support and conversation for the woman as a person in the journey, right? So there's all this support and information for women about how you make the baby, how you grow the baby, how you birth the baby, how you sleep the baby, feed the baby, blah, 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 blah. It's all the baby. And nobody was sitting down to say that, hey, guess what? You as a woman are about to undertake the most massive transformation you've probably ever experienced. And it's going to bring up a whole lot of stuff for you. Oh, but we're just going to send you home with the baby and let you get on with it. So about probably 7 or 8 years ago, I decided to really focus my professional expertise and my professional attention on, supporting other women through motherhood at all stages. And, I do say I want to support women to thrive and not just survive, because so much of motherhood feels like you are just surviving this minute, this hour, this day, till bedtime, this week, whatever that is for you. And I think that we can do a lot better for women in making that journey actually more enjoyable. So that's kind of what I've set out to do.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess, what does, you're a mum, and no doubt you coach women to thrive, and that I'm going to assume that you thrive. So what does like an average day look like for you? Like to kind of, I guess, empower you to be the businesswoman and the mum and the wife and the friend and all the other things, all the other roles that you play. So how do you, I guess, go about dancing with life?
Doing all of that. Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to say is I don't thrive all the time. right? So I want to make that really clear, that I'm not putting myself on a pedestal that goes, oh my God, it's so shiny and wonderful all the time in my world. No, I'm a mother with 3 children, juggling a business and life and wife and blah, blah, blah. And some days are really cruddy, and some days I don't do very well at looking after myself. But I do better more than I don't. You know, I've learned how to create thrive more than I survive, you know. And when I know that I've fallen into the patterns that put me back in that survival mode, I'm well equipped to recognize that and go, oh, hang on, need to refocus, need to change some of the things I'm doing, because I'm not thriving and I've got to switch things around. So yeah, I just want to say that.
Yep.
So what does a typical day look like for me? Monday to Friday, a typical day is getting up at 6 a.m. to get my eldest daughter out of bed and ready to go to school. She commutes from the island to Auckland, so we leave the house at 6:40 so that she can be on a 7 a.m. ferry. So that's, you know, round one in the house. Then round two is get my other 2 children out of bed when we get home, to get them ready for school. By the time everyone's off to school, I'm sort of home a bit after 8:30, and I get between about 8:30 and 1 o'clock really to work. That's all. It's nothing, right? It is such a tiny window of time, really. And so in that time, you know, I have my clients booked in. I, you know, might do some writing work. I might, you know, be preparing for a program I want to run. But I really break it down. I'm very good at breaking down what is it that I've got to get done in that very small window of time. A couple of mornings a week, I might go to the gym first or go for a swim first. I like to try and fit in some physical self-care a couple of mornings a week before my day gets going, because I've learned that if I don't do it first, it doesn't get done.
Me too.
And then at 2 o'clock, go back to school, pick up. School
Mum
finishes at
again.
2:30. Mum again. So I put the mama hat on, drive kids to, you know, netball and gymnastics and whatever else. And my afternoons are very much filled with motherhood, you know, until we get through dinner and bath and all those sorts of things. And then when my children finally go to bed at night, I very rarely work at night. It's not my thing. I really try to have that boundary unless it's critical, but I try to just leave that. There's enough other life stuff that's got to be sorted out at night. Sunday mornings, in terms, we're talking about, you know, self-care and things that make me thrive. Sunday mornings are sacred in my world. They're my ocean swimming morning. I have a group of women, or not just women now, but a group of people that I ocean swim with here every Sunday morning. And so that my family know that is sacred, that's what mum is doing, and nobody, even my husband's not brave enough to ask to go fishing on Sunday mornings. He knows that's mine. Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, life is very busy. There's a lot to juggle, but what helps me to thrive is making sure that I know exactly where the pockets of time are in my world that are about my wellness and my self-care, so that I don't turn into cranky stress head mama.
Yes, yeah, I love that. Now, Linda, I've got a question. A lot of the other women, or a lot of, I guess, mums that we've had on our series so far, have kind of been in roles, like working roles, and then started families. So you're quite different in that sense, where you've had your business and then became a mum. So how was that transition for you? Because I'm confident, I don't have kids, but I know it would definitely change my life dramatically to shift from very career driven to having to bring in, you know, kids. So how did that transition go?
Uh, the I think the transition happened in several stages. Every time I had a child, another child in the mix, it changed. So the first round went quite smoothly because I was running this very successful coaching practice. You know, I was full load of clients, and I was really determined not to let that go. And so I sort of went, well, what does maternity leave look like for me? And what I did was I recruited 2 other coaches essentially to replace me on contract. And you know, I interviewed them. They got to meet with all my clients, and my clients got to choose who they wanted to work with, all my existing client base. and I would manage all the admin stuff, but these coaches would turn up for the actual coaching. And then if there were new inquiries through the business, I'd literally just go, this one's for you, this one's for you, this one's for you, and divvy it up. And that worked brilliantly until I was ready to return back to the coaching space. So that was very successful. But then as I had more children and my time resource for my business got smaller and smaller, basically, it got more compressed. Yeah, I think that I just had to accept that for this period of time, motherhood needs more from me than business. Not that it needs more, but that I need to just accept that as long as my business ticks along and I'm doing the work that I love, it's okay not to be the biggest, most financially profitable, amazing business owner. You know, that what I serve in the world, what I give in the world is worth enough as it is. And that rather than having this battle and this tension and this struggle between business time, motherhood time, I just kind of try to be accepting that right now the business just tickles along quite happily,
Yeah.
but without being, big and whatever. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically,
But it is hard, right? It is hard to
I could
accept that.
imagine it would be really hard. Yeah, absolutely. I think that we can all agree that, even when something else comes into our life and, when we've got a business or we've got a career and we absolutely love it, and then there's something that comes in and it takes up a little bit of a shift of energy, it is a mindset shift to, I guess, just be a normal human being and and to understand that different stages or different seasons of life, they have different priorities. But as you said, this is a time and a period, and and you've got multiple things, not just about being the greatest coach out there. So
yeah, well, and I could choose. So I said before, I don't work at night. I don't sit up for hours after the kids go to bed. I could choose to do that though, right? If I wanted the business and the success of a business to meet a particular standard, I could choose to sit up every night till midnight, working and writing and creating the things I don't have time to do in my little windows of time. But that doesn't work for me as a human being. It doesn't work. That makes me tired and cranky. I don't sleep well then, and then I'm not a very nice wife and mother, and so I choose not to. But it's just all about priorities and choices and what's good for you.
yeah, I agree. I'm also not a night person. My brain doesn't work after a certain hour, and it can't think of anything worse than writing blogs and working. So Linda, we have a lot, I guess, of women who are, I guess, kind of in that process of they've started a business and they've seen some great results, and it's 2020 and they've been brought into the hype of new year, new you, and let's do all these amazing things. But reality is that business is hard, and sometimes you can get yourself into a bit of a rut, or you're challenged, and you do start to think, is it actually really worth it? It's so much easier to go and work for someone else or have a steady income or whatever it may be. Do you have any advice for our listeners who, I guess, are going through that period where they are unsure if they should keep going and keep pursuing their business dreams, or if they should shift the needle and go and try something else?
Yeah. Look, and I think that, most people go through that in their business. And so the first thing I would say is give yourself some time to work through it. Don't hit the panic button when you think something's not working and react to it. Give yourself some time. So it might be 3 months, 6 months, whatever. We say, right, in this period of time, I'm going to really work through a process of assessing if this is good for me, not good for me, working, not working, and why. And take some time to identify what is it that feels like it's not working for you. It might be lifestyle, it might be that it's taking too much time and not bringing back enough money, or it might be the hours. Work out what those things are. Can you do anything differently about them as part of this test and measure? Set yourself some benchmarks. If it is going to work, what will that look like? What kind of little milestones can we set during this time to see if we can turn it more towards that? talk to other people, right? Go find people who, you know, are maybe in a similar business or in a, maybe a bit further along. Maybe you're 2 years into a business and you know someone who's 5 years in. Go and talk to them about, what was it like at 2 years? Did you go through this? What got you through it? You know, because often these are growing pains or normal parts of a business that, again, people don't talk about, so people don't realize that it's all okay. Get support, you know, get people around you. Don't feel like you have to do everything alone. But I'm also going to say that it's perfectly okay to walk away from a business, because I think that women in particular, when we go into a business, we have this feeling that, well, this has to work, it has to be right because I did this and I can't back out now. It's like, well, actually, no, you can. If it's really not working, it's absolutely fine to choose to go back to a 9 to 5 job if it actually works best for you. But now you'll go back to your 9 to 5 job feeling really happy and content doing it because you've explored an alternative. You were brave enough to go and do something that other people only dream of and wish for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this business is hard, you know. So it's like, don't just give up, work through it, but also don't worry if you come to a place of saying, actually, it's not for me. I'm going to
Yeah.
let go.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think one thing that you mentioned there, which has been something that's come up quite a bit, is talk about it. And, you know, we are not great often at talking about it, especially if you have an online platform and you see the social media highlight wheel and like thinking, God, everyone out there seems to be off, you know, living this lifestyle and doing this and doing that and doing this. And, you know, in reality, if we don't know what goes on behind the scenes unless we have conversations, and, you know, everyone generally experiences very similar challenges often along the business journey, sometimes at different periods. But there are definitely certain challenges which would be like, absolutely, I have been there, and you don't feel so alone and so abnormal. And I guess, you know, you get the advice to push on through. But of course, as you said, if not, totally fine to assess what your goals are and then work out what's going to meet that, instead of, you know, putting all this pressure on yourself to make something work, especially if you don't want to do it anymore.
And by kind of identifying, you know, what is it that's not working or what is working, and actually being able to articulate it and make it tangible, allows you to work through it as a process rather than kind of getting into this mental and emotional swirl within yourself about it when you can't think clearly. So,
Yeah.
which is often the space people get into. They get into this sort of spinning mind and spinning everything, where they just go, oh my God, it's not the way I thought it was going to be and I don't know what to do and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, let's just slow it down and
Yeah.
let's pull it apart and just take a breath and work through it as a process.
Yeah, I love that. Now, a big theme of this series is champion of change. And I wholeheartedly believe that all the women, whether it be business or a different aspect of life, have been facilitating change based on, you know, what they want to be doing. But I'm curious to know, what does championing change mean to you?
That's a nice question. For me, championing change is about having a voice, being willing to speak for the things you want to see changed or that you want to be a part of changing, and being willing to speak for those things even when it feels like you're the only voice. It means standing behind others who wish to stand for change and supporting their voice and being willing to do that, and celebrating change. You know, change is good. It can be
Yeah.
hard, it can be scary, it can be a whole lot of things, but to champion change, you've got to stand up and go, hey, it's cool, it's great, let's go do it, let's be that, let's do it together.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And my last question, Linda, would be for anyone who is watching or listening to our time together and your story has resonated, or they're interested in knowing more about how you could help them, you know, thrive more in life. How would be the best
Yep.
way to go about reaching you?
Sure. They can either just pop me an email if they'd like to, which is simply linda@lindaonthego.com, or pop over and, you know, they might like to browse the website and read a few things that, you know, support them. So again, lindaonthego.com. Otherwise, yeah, I hang out on Facebook more than anywhere else in social media world for
Yeah.
who enjoy that too. So, you know, I welcome anybody who just wants to reach out and say, oh, me too, or that meant something, or what about this? You know, I'm just such a huge advocate for giving women a space to say what they need to say and speak their truth, and to feel that it will be cared for when it's received, you know. So it's never a silly reason to write.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again, Linda, for your time, and thank you for sharing your heart. I think, you know, for the audience will really, you know, really connect with how much you love what you do, and guess being able to help women in any way you possibly can, to, I guess, you know, to be able to live a happy, fulfilled life, and understand that it's quite normal to not be perfect all the time, like we feel like often we need to be, but to also just have those boundaries or those triggers in place for us to recognize, oh, I need to go and do this for myself today, and family, that means no fishing, and everyone leave me alone, I'm off to do it.
So let me leave you with one of my favorite quotes that I use. And anyone who's followed me or worked with me, you know, has just like a little mantra. So you've just triggered it when you said that. My favorite quote to live by is to say, "It doesn't have to be perfect to do it."
Yeah, it's so true, and I love that. So, well, I will let you get going. I know that you've got small pockets of window, and you've been very kind to give us some of that time. So thank you again, and I really hope that some of our audience reach out to you and connect, and even just have a chat about where they're at, and just, you know, and share their story.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really, really lovely.
Thanks.